Hi, my name is Russell Sturgis. I'm the founder and principal of EAP Mentor, and each fortnight at EAP Mentor we put out a blog and a video about the different principles and aspects of the Enhancers Awareness Program and the work that we do here at EAP. Today I've written a blog which I've entitled Groundhog Day, which, if any of you remember the film, promoted this whole idea of life repeating itself on a daily basis until, in this particular movie, the character develops an expanded awareness, and that through the expanded awareness he finally has the capacity to free himself from this repeated pattern of day in and day out doing the same thing. And of course the general sense of this film was that the character, played by Bill Murray, was able to develop a greater sense of compassion for other people, and it was eventually through this process of becoming more compassionate that he was able to free himself from Groundhog Day. And I think philosophically and spiritually speaking, there's probably a lot in the message of that movie in terms of giving us insights into how it's possible to break free of this repeated pattern that so many of us seem to be living, that keep on being responsible for us experiencing all the different forms of suffering that we do. And when I use that word, I'm talking about things like exhaustion, anxiety, burnout, depression, and all of the other things that we're experiencing in terms of the lifestyle diseases, which, when we look at all of this, it's now epidemic. This is stuff that's gripping particularly the Western world, and right now with our symptomatic approach that we're taking to this, it's fast outpacing our ability to respond to the actual diseases. And of course the consequences of that are catastrophic in terms of the financial demands on governments and individuals worldwide. So we have this Groundhog Day situation that's existing, and of course what we're looking for is the formula that's going to free us from this repeated pattern. Now, the capacity to be able to change what we call reality is often perceived to be done by trying to manipulate the world of reality, the external world, and it sort of lends itself to the idea that if we want to be able to, for example, and I use the example of dieting in the blog, if we want to lose weight, then all we've got to do is exercise and eat differently. And of course we've had generations of people who have been exercising and eating differently who are still carrying a lot of weight. So the issue then is, what is it around our relationship with food that requires help? And of course, what is it around our thinking that requires help? And this is probably where the Enhancers Awareness Program begins to take a slightly different route in terms of how it approaches awareness around food, for example, to the rest of the world. And of course, this isn't just about weight, this is about anything that requires change. And of course, the basis of the Enhancers Awareness Program aligns itself with the concept that was coined as pragmatic laziness. And of course this is associated with the idea of awareness and mindfulness. So awareness and mindfulness is this whole notion that by being able to develop a new understanding as it relates to food, for example, if we continue to use the model of food, this whole idea that we're able to glean a whole lot of new knowledge and understanding around not only food, but the way in which our body metabolizes food and the mechanisms for controlling food breakdown and metabolism, its association with emotions, for example, the relationship between the vagus nerve and the nervous system of the gut, and the way in which emotions and the experiences of compassion and all those sorts things are associated with vagus nerve function. We have all of this new information that as we are able to research and read and study, we're able to develop our awareness around the other elements now that are associated with the consumption of food and the way in which they're able to impact on our weight and the ability for the body to digest food and store it as fat. So we've got this process of developing new information, and this is what really in the Enhances Awareness program we call enhancing awareness. This is gaining more knowledge, which means that you now have more awareness around the subject. Now, mindfulness, and I've talked about this before, but I'll keep on talking about it, is when we remember in any moment that we have a choice. So instead of just functioning out of our programming, functioning out of the way that we eat because this is the way we've always eaten, it's the way we were demonstrated by our parents and we've been programmed to eat this way, and of course in terms of modern society we've got our fast food consciousness, and so it just becomes the way that people eat. Instead of just functioning out of our programming in awareness, we recognise that we have a choice, the ability to be able to relate to food in a different way. Now, it's maintaining that awareness and the associated capacity to stay in the place of being the observer and remembering that you have a choice is all that we ask people to do in the Enhances Awareness program. In fact, we discourage people from going out and doing a diet. There's been hundreds of people, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people who have done diets that have proven that they don't work. Less people who have done them that have been able to show that they work sustainably. So what we have in the Enhances Awareness program is this whole idea that in order to be able to bring about change, it requires mindfulness. And with mindfulness, and we've just talked about this in the series of blogs that I've just done recently, we develop this capacity for maintaining inner peace and therefore stillness. And I'd like to suggest to you that the capacity to bring about sustainable change in ways that are serving or loving to who we are as individuals and to the people that we connect with and to the planet, that the way that we achieve that is through maintaining our commitment to staying mindful, which is remembering that we have a choice, with the ultimate desire to sustain inner peace. And that by sustaining this commitment to inner peace and acting in loving ways that help to support that in fact we're able to facilitate a shift in the external reality. And in a previous video I referred to this as bioplasticity, life plasticity. This whole idea that the reality that we experience of life is plastic to our thoughts, but more in particular, that it's plastic to our consciousness of inner peace. That when we make inner peace in this sense of compassion, which is self-loving and loving of others and the planet as our priority, that it's like the universe transforms itself, not the universe, sorry, but reality transforms itself in order to align with this sense of inner peace. And all of a sudden there's a flow, there's a place of being in the zone, there's this place of grace that begins to manifest where we end up with a greater sense of clarity, we have this greater sense of joy in relationships, we get to experience of freedom from being constrained and tied down by limiting beliefs, and of course physical wellness, the ability for the body to improve in its health and well-being. So Groundhog Day is this whole notion that we can wake up to the fact that we don't have to keep repeating these patterns on a daily basis. Now, in the blog that I wrote, I share an experience that I had over the last few days where I was playing cards with my life partner, and we play a delightful game called 5 Crowns, and it's something that just helps to give some balance to my life, given that so much of it is spent oftentimes talking about and engaging with people in very, very mindful ways. It's kind of nice to do something a little playful from time to time, and we were travelling and had an opportunity to play this game on several occasions, and being convincingly thrashed every day it seems that I had forgotten what my priority was, and I found myself becoming somewhat agitated by the notion that my partner kept beating me. And it didn't matter what I did, I wasn't even able to change the result. Like, even on 2 or 3 occasions when I went to deal the cards, I would slip the top card off as I picked them up and put it on the bottom. So that in theory my partner was getting my cards, which meant that she'd be experiencing what I was experiencing, which was really very, very poor deals. And I would get what she was getting, which were exceptionally delightful. Funny enough, that didn't work. So even in giving her my cards, she still managed to thrash me. And this went on for a couple of days. And it wasn't until I recognised that I wasn't staying in peace, that I'd lost my inner peace, where I decided, hang on a second, peace isn't a consequence, it's a choice, and there's no reasonable excuse for why I should be getting upset at losing a card game. It's not that important. If I lost a leg, maybe there's something to be, a little bit concerned about. In terms of playing cards, just not important. So just at that moment of realization, I took a breath, I took a moment to center myself, and I just really allowed myself to move back into that place of inner peace. Really clear that I was no longer vested in what the outcome was going to be. It didn't really matter because I could stay in peace but enjoy the game at the same time. That very next hand I won. In other words, the cards that I failed to get for 2 days previously all of a sudden started to manifest, and this continued on then for the rest of the series of hands that we played in that particular session, where I kept on winning on a fairly consistent basis through the rest of that day. The only thing that changed that possibly was able to bring about these changes was either pure luck, the tables turned as we talked, or that the tables turned through a shift in consciousness. And having talked to a couple of other people who are familiar with this, they were able to share similar stories where a shift towards being in a place of inner peace created a different result. This really reinforces this whole notion that we have this capacity to totally create our reality, because reality as we know it is plastic to our thoughts, that there's a plasticity to it that means that it has the capacity to morph, to change in order to reflect our state of inner peace or our state of not being in inner peace, and consequently a lot of the suffering and the things that we experience. I'd like you to consider this whole idea that in any moment you have the ability to be able to influence the reality that you experience, and that this world is able to transform itself to reflect your core centeredness, your core sense of awareness in terms of where your level of awareness is aligned with. It's food for thought, and I don't have any scientific evidence, or there's a lot of evidence out there that's being done in order to support this. But what I'd like to suggest to you is I'd like you to give some thought to this. In the Enhancers Awareness Program, what we do is we help people to become aware and mindful so that they can live their day-to-day lives in this place of mindfulness. I would like you to give some consideration to the whole notion that it's possible for you to be able to change your reality by becoming more aware and being more mindful. To find out more about what we do with that and how we approach our work, please go to our website, eapmentor.com, where you can find out so much more about what we're doing. And if you go to Facebook, go to @EAP Mentor. We have a wonderful weekly program of uploading posts that help people to live their lives with greater awareness and mindfulness. Anyway, thank you for taking time to listen, and we'll be back with you in a couple more weeks sharing some more insights into the journey of awareness and mindfulness. Speak to you then. Bye.